Everybody that knows me is always asking me about updates on my garden. Well, it's September. It's really hot here in Houston. So I want to show you guys how my garden is handling this heat right now. Give you the raw, honest truth about the state of my garden right now in September. So let me show you what's growing on here in Houston, Texas, and let's garden on. So before we get into this September garden tour, I want to show you guys some of my new gardening shirts that you can pick up now. This shirt's just in time for Halloween. There's a skeleton watering his plants. It says, just trying to keep my plants alive. I think it's pretty cool. I like the design. I think it came out pretty good. There's a couple different colors. And then on the back, it says Third Coast Gardening. So if you want to get one of these shirts or one of the other shirts, I'll have a link in the description, but I appreciate you guys considering getting one of these shirts. I think they came out pretty good, and I think you're gonna like them. So like I said, that everybody I know is always asking me about my garden. So the first thing I want to show you in this September garden tour is how my dragon fruit's doing. Because about a month ago, I did a video where I did a heavy pruning on this. If you want to see that video on how to prune your dragon fruit, I'll have a link in the description. But basically the idea was to prune this to force it to produce flowers rather than vegetation, because it was growing vines like crazy. That's not really what I wanted. I wanted flowers so it can produce more fruit. So I have a few flowers on here, which is a big improvement because there was a time it flowered a couple times this year, but it wasn't putting out the flowers I wanted it to. So by pruning it, I was able to help this dragon fruit produce more flowers. And now there's about 4 flowers that are about to bloom on this, probably definitely before the end of the season, before it starts getting cold. So probably within another month or two, I'll have more flowers blooming on here. But as you can see, there's one here, there's one here, there's one here, and I think there's one on the other side. So there's like at least 3 or 4. I think there's 4 flowers on this one. And then on the other dragon fruit I have on the other side of the yard, there's another flower. So hopefully I get some fruit before December, before it starts getting cold. Then I also have this Dancy Tangerine over here. And these are 25-gallon containers I have a lot of my fruit trees in. People always asking me about these containers. I think I paid like $12.99 at my local nursery. I don't think you can get anything that cheap online. You have to go look at your local nurseries. But this Dancy Tangerine has some fruit on it. So I'll be able to harvest some tangerines before the end of the year too, or hopefully before it gets cold. There's see 1, 2, 3, like 4, 5 tangerines on this tree. But yeah, people are always asking. That's one of the most common questions I get is about these 25-gallon containers. So basically the plan is, if I get any freezing weather, is to get a dolly and then take it into the garage to protect these trees from freezing weather. So I have over a dozen citrus trees in my small backyard garden. Most of them are in containers except for like 2. So this one to my left right here, this is a yuzu mandarin. It's one of the most cold hardy citrus trees that you can get. So if you want to put a citrus tree in the ground and you think your zone isn't warm enough for citrus trees, go with a yuzu mandarin because they can take temperatures down to 0 degrees. But even being such a cold tolerant citrus, I'm still going to protect it with a frost blanket if temperatures drop below freezing, especially if any snow or freezing rain is expected. It's just better to protect a tree like this than take any chances, even though it can take temperatures. But that's just like the temperature, not if you're getting consistent ice. So protect it from any kind of ice or snow. And then this tree, so this is in a 15-gallon container. Like those other 2 trees I showed you before were in 25-gallon containers. A lot of my trees are in 25-gallon containers, but this is a 15. So probably next year, I'll probably bump it up to a 25-gallon. But this is a sweet kumquat. So there's sweet kumquats, and then there's tart kumquats. The sweets are a little more uncommon, so if you see it, you should pick it up. Like I think earlier this year, I saw this tree. They only had like 2 at the nursery. I bought it, and then like for the rest of the season, I didn't see it. So it had fruit on it when I bought it. I harvested all the fruit, and now a second time it has fruit again. As you see, the fruit's almost ripe. Like I'm gonna pick one and just taste it right here. Even though this is probably not 100% right, it's close. Tastes pretty good. A little sour because it's not. It's a little sour because it's not completely ripe. But yeah. Consider adding a sweet kumquat to your garden too. These trees are good because they produce at least twice a year. So just because you don't live in the tropics doesn't mean you can't grow tropical fruit trees. So I have a few tropical fruit trees growing in my garden. They're all growing in containers. So most of my fruit trees are growing in 25-gallon containers. Some trees you can get away with growing in a 15-gallon container, but most of the time you're going to want to aim for that 25-gallon container and just get a dolly and move it into the garage when any kind of freezing weather happens, especially for a tree like this. But I noticed something really exciting about this tree just recently. So this is a star fruit tree and it already has fruit on it. Even though I just got it earlier this year in the spring, it already has fruit on it, which is pretty exciting. So hopefully I'm able to harvest and this fruit become ripe before that freezing weather comes, because I'm gonna have to take this into the garage when that happens. But I have a couple other tropical fruit trees in my garden too. Like I showed you the dragon fruit, which is a cactus, not really a tree. But this is a coffee plant right here. I got 2 coffee plants. So the coffee plants I normally take into the house, either in the kitchen or use a grow light when winter hits. Right now, there's no coffee cherries on it. So you get the coffee cherries and then you roast those and those become the coffee beans. But been growing this for about 3 years now. No cherries yet, but hopefully maybe next year I might get some cherries. Doesn't look like I'm going to get any this year. And then right next to the star fruit, I got a star apple tree, which is one of my favorite fruits. It's a tropical, like jelly-like sweet fruit. Really good. It tastes like nature's jelly. It's the best way to describe it. But yeah, so 3 tropical fruit trees that need to be protected during the winter. So this is my other dragon fruit planter. This is just a rolling planter from Vego. That other one is a rolling dragon fruit planter from Vego. The difference is the dragon fruit planter has a built-in trellis, and this trellis is a handmade one that the nursery I bought it from did. And then I just repotted it into this rolling planter because that's what I had. But I pruned this one too. This dragon fruit only has 1 flower, but I'm hoping that this flower over here blooms at the same time, hopefully the same night as those other flowers. So I can use this flower as a pollen donator for those other varieties, because those other varieties are self-sterile. So I'm going to need the pollen of a self-pollinating variety to be the pollen donator, like this one right here. This is just your standard dragon fruit variety, the pink skin with white flesh. And those are a dark star, which is a self-sterile variety. So it needs the pollen donation of another variety. And purple H, which is self-sterile as well. So those 2 varieties are going to need the pollen from this flower to set fruit for those other 2 varieties. So another favorite plant I have growing in my garden are some of my desert roses. So as you can see, these are some of the desert roses I have in my garden too. I have a couple others on the other side of the garden near that other dragon fruit I just showed you. But earlier in the season, I had pruned these. So every season you want to prune these. So pruning your desert roses are going to encourage more flowers. So the more pruning you do over the years, the more branches you're going to get and the more flowers you'll get in return. So in order to have a lot of flowers, you have to have a lot of branches. And in order to have a lot of branches, you have to prune. But when you prune, you need to wear gloves because these plants are very poisonous. The sap can get on your hands and burn. So that's why you need to wear gloves when you do any kind of work with desert roses. But as you can see, these plants right here are about to flower pretty soon. This one right here is about to open up. But yeah, I like desert roses, but you have to be careful with desert roses because they are poisonous and toxic. So here's 2 more desert roses I have growing in my garden. But I also wanted to take the time to let you guys know that these are tropical plants as well. So these are succulents, but they need to be taken inside during the winter. And then when temperatures start to rise again, you can take them back outside. But I wouldn't take them back outside until temperatures get between 60 and 70 degrees Technically, they can take temperatures between 50 and 60, but you don't want to take any chances because what if you get an unexpected freeze and it gets really cold during a night? So it's better to keep them inside and grow them as a houseplant until temperatures are a little bit warmer, say in that 60 to 70 degree range. But this is a variegated desert rose. And then this one right here is one of my favorites. I love this pot it's in, and it's one of my first, I think this is the first desert rose I ever got. So for that reason, it's my favorite desert rose, even though some of these other ones are a little more unique. But yeah, the main takeaway is that desert roses do not handle cold weather. So during the winter, you need to grow them as a houseplant inside. One of my favorite types of fruit trees to grow are fig trees. I have like 6 fig trees in my garden, but the first fig tree I ever planted in my garden about 2.5 years ago was this Celeste fig tree right here. So I planted it in a whiskey barrel, and in such a short time, it just exploded in growth. I don't know how to explain it, why this tree got so big compared to some other people who grow the same types of trees in their yards. The only thing that I can think that might be the reason why this tree got so big so fast might be because I planted it in a whiskey barrel, see? And in that first year to 2 years, it was protected by the whiskey barrel being in good soil. And then after that 1 to 2 year period, it basically busted through the bottom of the whiskey barrel. The bottom basically disintegrated, and the roots were strong enough to go through into the clay. So here in Houston, we have very clayey soil. So the thing about clay is that it has a lot of nutrients, but a lot of times it's hard for roots to get through that thick soil. So I think being in that whiskey barrel allowed this tree to mature a little bit and be protected before it actually went into that clayey soil. And now it's absorbing all those nutrients in the clay, and it's giving it the energy it needs to grow really big. So I harvested a ton of figs from this tree earlier this year. I made a jam. I'll have a link there. You can go check out that video if you want to see how I made that jam. But there's a ton of figs on this tree right now. So that means I'm going to harvest more figs before the end of the year and probably make some more jam. But yeah, so I think the secret was the whiskey barrel protected the tree when it was young, and then now it can suck up all those nutrients from the clay. So just like my new shirt design suggests, that I'm just trying to keep my plants alive. So I've had people say, oh, how do you have such a green thumb? But really, I really don't. I've killed a lot of plants, just like any other gardener. And if you see anyone on social media and it looks like they have a perfect garden, they've killed a lot of plants, because in order to have successes, you have to have a lot of failures. All right, so keeping that in mind, this is my Japanese maple. Now, it's not dead, but it is a challenge to keep a Japanese maple alive here in Houston. So it looks like it's starting to bloom right here and put new growth out. But I live in basically like a border zone, so I'm pushing my zones by growing a Japanese maple. So this is a heat-tolerant variety called a Fire Glow, but it doesn't look very pretty right now. So I just want to show you guys that sometimes things aren't perfect, and that's okay. But hopefully it makes it through the rest of the summer, because I know it's September, but it's basically still summer here. It's very hot. We still have days in the 90s, close to 100. Next year, I'll repot this into a slightly bigger pot. But right now, you know, it's struggling a little bit. The Japanese maple, as you see, is kind of wrinkly. We got a ton of rain last night, so it's not good to water it again. But there are some newer leaves, like right here, that pumped out some fresh growth. Yeah, so nothing's perfect, and don't think that you can't have a green thumb, because the best gardeners have killed a lot of plants. So, you know, you can't have successes, well, failures. All right, so I have a couple things growing on in this section right here. So this is actually sugarcane right here. This is a dwarf variety called Pele Smoke. It can get up to 6 feet tall. I think it's pretty close to being ready to harvest. And I don't have a press, so I don't know how I'm going to be able to harvest and use this sugarcane, because I don't have a sugarcane press. but I just thought it'd be fun to grow something unique and different in my garden this year. So this is the first year I'm growing sugarcane. And then next to it, I did kind of an experiment. So one of the things about gardening is you can experiment and try new things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you can try something new next year. But my thinking was I could grow watermelon vertically. Didn't look like it worked out very well because the squirrels kept eating the watermelon. I have a few fruit, about 2 or 3 fruit that were almost ready, and the squirrels ate the watermelon. And then underneath it, I'm growing sweet potatoes. So I was thinking, oh, the watermelon can grow vertically, and then the sweet potatoes can grow under the ground. So we'll see. I'm going to give it another until the end of the season, and then I'm going to try to dig these up, and hopefully there's some sweet potatoes in this bed. So hopefully it wasn't all lost, because like I said, you know, sometimes things aren't perfect and things don't work out. So just because you kill some plants doesn't mean you can't grow plants. You know, every gardener kills plants, and even though I didn't have success with growing watermelon this year, and the squirrels, you know, the squirrels enjoyed it, but I didn't get to enjoy my watermelon. But hopefully there's some sweet potatoes under here. I'm going to give it another, probably, I'm going to wait till like the end of November, give it enough time to let these sweet potatoes grow. But then over here, this is one of my favorite plants in my garden too. We're going to have to repot this soon. But this is my bonsai. This is a ficus bonsai. Pretty big tree. This is another tree I'm going to have to take inside during the winter. Probably use a grow light. But it definitely needs to be repotted. And I'll probably wait till the spring to repot it. But it's, yeah, some of the branches are dead and breaking, but it's not, the tree's not dead. But it is a pretty big bonsai. And I'll like to get a new pot to update it, because I'm not really crazy about this pot right here. But the tree is a pretty cool tree. This right here, this is a monkey tail cactus. This is another plant I really like in my garden. It's obviously another plant that you have to protect during cold weather. So my house is over crammed with plants during the winter. Like, definitely will have to either use some kind of grow light or have it by the window. But last year I had saw this plant or a similar monkey tail, and I left it at the nursery. And then a day later I went back and it was gone. And I really regretted leaving that monkey tail. But then like the following week or two later, I went back and they had more. So I wasn't going to leave this plant again. And I got it that time. So I was so happy that I got a monkey tail. It does need a repot. It could use a better pot than this. But I think the moral of the story, if you see something at a nursery that you really like, especially if it's kind of uncommon, just get it, because it might not be there the second time you return. So yeah, so monkey tails are really cool. They do flower, but not everybody likes them. I've heard some people say they're ugly, but I like them. So if you guys found any information in this video helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more gardening videos. Until the next time, I'll catch you on the flip side of the garden. And if you're considering buying a shirt, thanks a lot.